Welcome, everybody, to the SmallTown Collectibles YouTube channel. Today, my guest curates one of my favorite mystery boxes to not only open on my channel, but as far as books that I just love to keep. Their motto is, if it isn't signed, it's not complete. Everybody join me in welcoming to 10 questions, Ruben Gallegos from IRF Authentics.
Hey, Jimmy, how's it going, man? Thank you for having me. Super excited. And, with an intro like that, thank you for those kind words.
Oh, no. I mean, and I say that because it truly is. I think the first one I bought it was the one before the winter box or for the holiday box.
Yeah, on the birthday box.
Yeah, it was the very first one I bought, and I bought two of them, and I actually hit one of the grand prize boxes. And that was the first time I'd ever actually hit a grand prize of any kind. And so I was so excited. And then I love the books. I love the way it was curated. So I meant every word. So let's just jump into the interview, man. And so the first question that I ask everybody that comes on is, what or who got you into collecting?
So I've been collecting since I was a kid. I mean, from Pogs, for those of you that are old enough to remember Pogs, to, baseball cards, comics. Growing up as a kid, had it a little bit rough, but comics were cheap enough. They were $1.25 back in the day. And, it was something that we could afford. And, so I got really into comics probably in the late 90s. And what brought me back to comics, because once I got into high school, kind of trickled off. I was in foster care at the time and just didn't necessarily continue with the hobby. But after the college days, my goddaughter showed up at my front door and said, "Hey, aren't you into comics?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure," and she showed up with a short box of just a bunch of comics, and it just took me back. And I blame her for the amount of money I spent on comics. And it was awesome to get back into it for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I always tell the story. I had an uncle that kind of got me into it, and everybody does. I think you kind of drift away. High school. I was still into it in high school, but I went to college and kind of drifted away, and then just kind of came back probably 5 or 6 years ago, man. And mine, for me, I walked into what is now my LCS, and there were just books everywhere, and I was like, man. This is awesome. And so I picked up a Superman book, a Batman book, whatever,
Right.
and read them. And I was like, okay. And I was hooked again instantly. So question two is, your company IRF is known for the autographed memorabilia, right? So like, what sparked that? Was that always something that you collected, was autographed memorabilia? Or is that something that just happened later and you're like, man, this is cool. I like these autographs.
Yeah, I mentioned that a little bit around high school. I had veered away from, just collecting trading cards and comics and whatnot. And in my early college days, I was able to get Dodger season tickets. I born and raised in Los Angeles, so a big Dodger fan. 2020 World Series champs, finally, baby. But we actually used to go to the games, and I'm not kidding, I used to be first one in at the stadium, last one out. And so we'd show up batting practice, and I'd see these guys just kind of come up to the seats, and I was like, and I decided to get an autograph. Right, I remember my first autograph was Edwin Jackson. It was his rookie year, and I got a Donruss rookie card signed by him, and that was it. That did it for me, man. And, I had been collecting sports memorabilia, eventually, again, having the luxury of living in LA County, got into entertainment memorabilia, hitting up celebrities at their premieres and whatnot. And it got really tough once eBay really took off. A lot of folks just did not want to sign. They were worried about the aftermarket, the reseller aftermarket. And at some point too, loved the new ownership, but they definitely raised the prices on season tickets. And I got to a point where financially it didn't make sense for me to keep those season tickets anymore. So kind of stepped away a little bit from that. And as I mentioned earlier in this interview, my goddaughter, sent me some comics. And I remember I was like, you know what, I'm going to check out a Comic Con. I haven't been to one in ages. And I went to a very small local show, the Long Beach Comic Con, super tiny. And I remember taking some of the books that I was like, oh, I know some folks will be there. And everybody was so cool. They were all awesome. Night and day difference from the celebrities and the professional athletes. And of course, two different worlds, right? But
Sure.
first, as someone who spent so long in the sports memorabilia game and entertainment memorabilia game, it was a complete culture shock for people to be so grateful that I was asking for their autograph. Normally it's me geeking out, and then these guys were like, "Oh man, you have a lot of my books," and blah blah blah. And it's been that way since. And I think the most enjoyable part is really how cool everyone is when you ask them for something like this, and even right now with obviously having launched IRF Authentics in 2018, very transparent with a lot of guys. I don't want someone finding out via YouTube or well, I don't sell on eBay, but I'm sure some people resell our stuff. I don't want them finding out that like, hey, you know what, this Ruben guy's been selling my stuff. I tell them like, hey, look, this stash is for my personal collection, and these are so that I can buy more of your books,
Right.
and they're totally cool about it, and that just would not exist in the sports world, unfortunately. So,
Well, that's one of the cool things about, I think, the comic hobby is that a lot of the hobby is the turnover. You get something that you think you want, and then you find something else you want, so maybe you sell it to be able to buy the next thing. And that's one of the beautiful things about the hobby, I think. It's one of my favorite parts. So question 3, and I actually put this question on here because, just last night, I purchased one of your mystery boxes for January.
Mhm.
And so as I was kind of thinking about putting the questions together for this interview, I was like, well, I wonder how Ruben actually got into selling mystery boxes. So what led you to, is it just an avenue to, to be able to sell, to buy more? Like, kind of give me an idea why you got into it.
Well, two things, and the first one was definitely financial reasons. In 2018, I kind of went back, and I've always been a bit of a, financial nerd, so to speak. And so I went back, and I had actually calculated everything I spent that was comic related in 2018. And at the end of the year, so January 2019, I was very surprised by how much money I spent, and it wasn't healthy financially, to continue to do that without having something to balance it off. So, began speaking with Julia, and I said, hey, you know what? I think, I'm going to have to do something about this. And at the time, we were also subscribed to a few mystery boxes that, we were huge fans of in the beginning, and then kind of got a little bit watered down. So I said, I think we can put out something that's very unique. I don't know that anyone is doing something like this, and maybe they are, and good for them. But after so many years in the autograph game, I have stuff that I think people would actually want and be excited about, and that's really where it came to be. I said, hey, you know what? Let's give it a try. I think our first batch was something like 10 boxes. It was super tiny, and I said, if people like it, we'll make more, and if not, I'll feel pretty good about how it went. And first batch was at a local show. I was not online. We didn't come to Instagram until I think 2019. And it was because of the feedback we were getting at these local shows that, we decided to go on to Instagram. And eventually the box became a way of us paying for the conventions we were attending. We spend a lot of money in this hobby. We love this hobby. Huge original art collector. Buying pages, getting commissions, buying covers, whatever it may be. And thankfully, for all you guys that have supported us, the box has become a way of doing that. And it's given us two really cool things to be excited about. One, hey, it generates the money for us to reinvest in the hobby, which is really where it goes to. I mean, we're not paying rent or anything with it, thankfully, not yet, but we actually, reinvest the money into the hobby. And most importantly, and maybe some folks have been a little extra nice about it, but we have gotten nothing but great feedback. People are genuinely excited about these boxes, and that's really what we wanted. And I think it's been pretty cool just seeing folks, especially when the pandemic hit in 2020, so we weren't at any shows. But a little bit before that, when the Instagram became a little bit successful for us, we did attend a show at the beginning of 2020, I think, actually. And, someone said like, oh, wow, hey, I remember buying your first box, and look at you now. And I was like, I don't know, but thanks, Yeah.
No, cool. Because like I said, the first one I bought, I was just kind of like, wow, this is really cool because it is different. That's the thing that's cool about it is it's different. Most mystery boxes, you kind of know what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? There's a risk, and in a lot of cases, it's kind of like a raffle ticket for a grand prize, and and all that. But every box that you have, because I like autographs too. I mean, I like to collect autographs.
Yeah.
So when I happened on your box, I was like, wow, this kind of suits me. As far as what I dig. So kudos to you, man. I mean, I think it's a great box.
Thank
all
you.
right. So question 4. And again, all these kind of just started coming to my mind last night. And I was like, okay, so you're doing these autograph mystery boxes. So you got to get these autographs from somewhere. So how do you get the autographs? I mean, I'm sure you can go to shows and conventions and different things, but like, especially, and one of my questions later is about COVID. Like, how do you go about getting autographs and the memorabilia you put in your boxes?
Yeah, a lot of it is the old-fashioned way. We go to these shows. I'm that guy that walks around with a cart and everybody's looking at, like, look at this guy kind of thing, right? And yeah, I've got my cart, I've got everything organized, window bags, and I'm trying to get autographs, right, from these shows. Now, we're very fortunate that we also live in a hot spot for this kind of stuff, whether it be sports, entertainment, anything, right? I mean, we live in LA County. We essentially live in LA. Culver City is exactly where we live. And we actually, almost half of the LCS shops that we have around here will have some sort of event, some sort of signing. Talent actually shops at these places. I mean, just this past Wednesday, ran into Zach Kaplan, and I was like, oh man, if I were here, I would have brought some books for you. And he started chuckling, and and so we have the access to these folks, and essentially that's kind of how it goes down. As I said, we're very transparent with folks, when it does come down to this. And I guess I'll save it for your next question, since you said it's going to be a little bit COVID related, but 2020 definitely forced us to be creative, because not just for the lack of conventions, but local comic shops were closed for a while,
Sure.
in California. And even those that were open, they weren't hosting any autograph events, so it definitely got tricky in 2020, and very lucky that we were able to do what we did. Also had to dig into my personal stash a little more than I would have liked to, for the sake of keeping it going.
Sure, absolutely. So, all right. So question 5 is like, what factors go into, I guess, is there a thought process that goes into the autographs that you seek? Or are you, hey, there's a talent there, let's go get their autograph, we can put that in a mystery box. Is there a method to the madness, or how does it work for you?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Sometimes if the talent is there and we have the inventory, for lack of a better word, then we want to go for it, right? Because ultimately, I think, fortunately, in this hobby, folks want to get who they can, right? Especially, I think something that makes our box so popular, it allows folks who might live in states or even cities that don't get these shows to essentially have the show experience, right? I mean, at least for me, that's one of my favorite things to do at a show. Some people go for, shopping or panels or whatever it may be. I don't think I hit up a single panel while I'm at a convention. So it's all about getting the autographs. But yeah, I mean, I think there are guys that I'm personally a big fan of. And, there are those common names or well-known names like Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. Who doesn't want one of those, right?
Sure.
As I've had an opportunity to really interact with the talent, I've become a big fan of guys that perhaps aren't exactly household names. Todd Knock, for example, is, in my opinion, a pretty big name in the comic industry, but he's not a Todd McFarlane, right? I mean, I can drop Todd McFarlane and non-comic people know who Todd McFarlane is. If you're not a comic fan, you probably don't know who Todd Knock is, but I love the guy. He's probably one of the nicest people I've ever met, period, let alone, celebrity type of person. And, that really makes me want to get it more. I'm subscribed at my LCS to every single Todd Knock cover, regardless of whether it's something I'm into or not, every single book that he's penciled. When I'm, bin diving, if I see the name Knock, I just pull it out, And so a lot of it does have to do with folks that I'm personally a fan of. And hopefully that means that when you guys get it, you can either be a fan of them as well, or get someone that you were like, yeah, this Todd Knock is awesome. I love it, for example.
So like I live in a place where you don't really get the opportunity, right? I mean, I live in rural Eastern Kentucky. There is a comic con in Lexington that there's a comic shop that's about an hour from me is affiliated with, and but you don't get the same access or the same names, at something like that as you have access to there. Um, like how does that process work? I'm just interested for myself. Like if somebody's at a comic shop, do you go, is it free? You just roll up and they sign your stuff, or do they charge so much for their signature? Like how does that work?
It varies. There is no one size fits all answer. Some shops will have a restriction where you have to buy X amount from us, and then you can get maybe 2 of your books signed from home. Other shops, and I'm sure some of it has to do with the particular artist or writer that they have as well, his or her rules. Some shops don't care. You can just show up, don't even have to buy anything. Even on those, we feel obligated to buy something because it's like, hey, you know what? Thank you for doing this. It's super cool, right? At conventions, most guys will charge. Sometimes it's a nominal fee, like $5. On average, you're looking anywhere between 10 to 20 per signature. Of course, bigger names will charge $50. Neil Adams charges $50 in person. Rob Liefeld charges something like $80 now or something like that. It can definitely add up. And I think for me, again, having come from kind of like that sports memorabilia background, even a guy like Rob Liefeld, who, love him or hate him, is a big name in this industry. $80 to me seems like a bargain because, I can't go to a sports shop and get LeBron James for $80 or, Anthony Davis for $80 or, Clayton Kershaw, whoever it may be. And so I think that's something that definitely had a appeal to me, especially as I said early on in this, but it really just depends on the venue and the artist. Some guys, at conventions will be like, look, I'll sign whatever you have as long as you buy something for my table, whether that be a print, another book or something. And no matter what, especially if it is someone who we know we're going to eventually put into one of the boxes, we try our best to support their hustle and, hey, let me get a couple prints or a couple extra books or whatnot.
Right. That's cool. Cool.
Yeah.
So question 6, and that kind of goes along building up on, the questions we've asked before. Are autographed comics a good investment? So for somebody who, is maybe new to the hobby, say entry level, and they're looking to build, like, I enjoy to read, right? So I read a lot of books, but I also look at the hobby as another investment source for myself. I like to diversify. And I know that may sound crazy to some people that I would diversify into comic books or trading cards or autographed pictures of Anthony Davis.
Right.
But you're doing this every day. You're in the hustle. What are your, for somebody who's just kind of new into it, is it a good investment?
The biggest thing I learned about comic book collecting is that there is, if we want to call it a market, there's a market for everything, literally everything. There are folks who hate autographed comics. They think it devalues them. They don't want it. Or if it's not slabbed, they want nothing to do with it. If it doesn't have a yellow label, they're not even going to give it the light of day. And that's totally cool too, right? And then there are folks like me who would rather have a $3 book with an autograph on it than perhaps a slab for a slightly more important book that's just going to sit in this is taboo in the industry, but just going to sit in a piece of plastic, right? I get a lot of joy out of seeing a signature on something, especially because probably 99% of the autographs I own for my collection are autographs that I got in person. So there's always a story behind it, right?
Sure.
As far as going back to your question and answering whether or not it's a good investment, I think the speculator market has just taken off like crazy over the last 2.5 years, maybe even less than that. A lot of it has to do with TV shows and movies and whatnot, and books that were once in a dollar bin are now $50-$60 books, which you're not going to get rich off of. But when you're looking at a book that you paid $1 for and it's now $40, percentage wise, there's nothing else is going to give you that type of return on investment, right? So there really is a market for everything. And with the signed comics, it obviously also sometimes depends on the particular book that you may have. A Jim Lee signed Batman book, for example, is worth way more than a Jim Lee signed Wildcats, right?
Sure.
And sometimes it could be the opposite. A David Mack book, for example, fantastic artist, but not a household name like Jim Lee. You get first appearance of Echo signed right now by David Mack, and all of a sudden this hot book that was in a dollar bin a year ago is suddenly worth that much more as well. And for those who really truly want to do this as an investment and hope to get some sort of big payoff in the end of it, you probably do want to slab everything. Or at least most of it, especially if it's something where hey, I don't really care about this in my collection. I want to just, if I paid $40 for it, I want to get 80 for it at some point, right? I think slabs are really, good for that. As we've also seen, though, with the speculator market, what's hot this week might not be hot next week. So
Absolutely.
for those that are interested in selling, sell it while it's hot. Sell it while it's hot. And it's a high risk, high reward, in my opinion. You could risk it and sell it for $50, and next week it's worth $100, or you could risk it, sell it for $50, knowing that you paid $4, and the following week it's back down to $10. So you hit some and you miss some for sure.
So, question number 7 is, like, what drives the value of the autograph? Is it how famous that person is? Is it how, like, if it's somebody that never signs a book, like, for example, right now, Stan Lee, there are not going to be any more Stan Lee signed books, right? So those things are going to appreciate in value. Like, what are some of the things that you see in your hustle that drives the value of the actual autograph?
Yeah, for sure, obviously names, right? A Frank Miller, a Neil Adams, a Kevin Eastman. Those guys are always going to be worth a little bit more than someone who's not in the top 5, so to speak, right? A lot of it has to do with the title as well. And I think a lot of it has to do with accessibility to that particular artist or writer. And, that's where it really comes into play as well, to compare with sports memorabilia, for example. If those of you who are baseball fans might recognize the name Frank Thomas, a Hall of Famer, awesome slugger in his day. For such a big name, probably one of the coolest guys, most fan-friendly, would sign whatever you had, whenever. I literally saw him once on a field. This was at Angel Stadium. I think he must have been playing for the A's at that point. It was a little bit towards the end of his career. And, just hundreds of us there holding baseballs or cards or whatever it is, and asking him for autographs. And one of the reporters kept coming over and saying, "Hey, Frank, we need to go. We got to interview you." And he, politely looked at us and turned around and looked at her and said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going anywhere until I'm done with my fans," right? Which is super rare in pro sports, especially now. But, a guy like Frank Thomas, you can get his autograph for fairly cheap, relatively speaking, certified by a reputable company on eBay, compared to, say, someone like, maybe like a Clayton Kershaw, who does not sign as often, is a little bit harder to get. Arguably so far as good a career, as far as big name goes, as good a career as Frank Thomas, and yet a Kershaw autograph will sell for 3 to 4 times as much because of the lack of accessibility to him, and so the comic industry kind of tends to be a little bit of the same. Kevin Eastman, for example, such a huge name, right? But he's so friendly, he's so accessible. Sure, he's going to charge you anywhere between $20 to $40 per signature, depending on where you're going and where he's at. But he'll sign whatever you have. He's not MIA, versus a guy like Frank Miller, who's going to charge you a minimum of $100 per signature. And, you might not always get a chance to see him because he doesn't travel as much unless it's a major con, right?
Sure. So I don't know what this just popped in my head, but I'm a big music fan, right? So you said you did some work in the entertainment industry. Did you do much with music?
On occasion, not probably out of everything, sports, film, everything. I think music was my smallest portion of the exposure. Did meet some pretty cool musicians who were happy to sign. I felt that a lot of older folks, especially like classic rock folks, were really cool. As opposed to, say, a young pop star who is being chased by paparazzi 24/7. And you got to understand too, right? I mean, that's a hell of a lifestyle. And, it's just, they definitely live the rock and roll lifestyle and might not always want to be disturbed, but yeah.
Cool. All right. So question number 8, and I want you to go into a little more about, because this question number 8 is, how has COVID affected what you do? Okay. And I know you said you had to get a little more creative. So kind of talk about that a little bit on what really you've had to do, to be able to, make these boxes and to be able to sell them and to get the autographs that you want.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Look, COVID took everyone by surprise. I don't care what industry you're in, unless you were Amazon, you got hit,
Right.
And, the comic industry was no different, especially for, say, something like IRF Authentics. We actually could not attend the shows, period, right? Even just signings, local signings just did not exist anymore. And, early on in the pandemic, Julia and I were wondering if we were going to have to cut back on what we were doing. And I really didn't want to do that. Not so much for the growth of the brand, but just, we had made a commitment to folks. We always released our box schedule at the start of the year. And, I figured if this is going to take a dip, it should be because folks are not in a position to perhaps spend on our boxes right now, and not because we weren't able to deliver. So, again, having the luxury of living in Southern California in such a hot spot, and at this point, not necessarily being new to the game either, thankfully, we've built a very cool network within the industry where, we were able to just kind of pick up the phone, so to speak, and, call certain artists and say, hey, man, I've kind of got this hustle, and I know that, you probably had a crazy show schedule that just got canceled. We'd love to see what we can do. And, honestly, the pandemic created a lot of opportunities for us to expand our network within the industry. Speaking to names, I mean, I'm not talking to Jim Lee or Frank Miller, unfortunately, but, I'm speaking to some names that I don't think would have happened, had 2020 not played out the way it was. And I think that actually contributed to our growth, not just in terms of being able to deliver the boxes, but as far as even just brand recognition and, as I said, mostly expanding that network. One of the first artists we worked with was a sketch card artist named Ray Griffin, and he, put a bunch of sketch covers together for us, did some AP sketch cards as well, and we kind of did a little bit of a, hey, I'm going to do a little something for you. I'm sure you've all seen, those of you who have bought the boxes, sometimes there'll be an offer in there like, hey, you know what, you get $10 off if you want to get a commission from this guy or whatever it may be. And, he got a lot of, work, so to speak, from it as well. And, thanks to, and again, he was the first one. So thanks to our, success, so to speak, with that one, the word of mouth got out. Ray told his friends who were probably a little more open to speak to a guy that they hadn't met. And, it was a lot of old school word of mouth advertising, so to speak. And the word got out that we're a reputable dealer, and that, we pay fairly and hopefully get you some more thanks to our followers. And really that, I think, is something that even post-pandemic is going to really enable us to do some pretty cool stuff, with the boxes.
Cool, man. That's great. And that was really, it was one of the questions I had that I scrapped was, do you normally reach out to an artist? Like if you have a featured artist, like I think in this January box, is it Don Ho?
Yeah, Ho, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like, did you reach out to him and say, hey, we're doing a box, we would like you to be the featured artist? Is that kind of how that works?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not big enough to where they're calling us to be in our box just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But, I hit up Don. He's someone that I'd actually, met at a convention a few years ago. We hit it off. He's an LA loco as well. And, I definitely hit him up at the end of last year. And I said, hey, this is something I've been doing. I'm a fan of your work. I think, people should be as well. And, we went a little bit back and forth, and I pulled a nice stack of some of his comics and asked him, hey, you want to do some remarks? And, and if you can offer something, here is the catch, for you to be a featured artist, so to speak, in our box, you have to offer something to our followers, right? Whether it be something as simple as free shipping or, you know, an actual discount or something. And he agreed. He's like, yeah, absolutely. You know, so he, you know, gave me a price sheet of discounted commission rates, for example. And there are some guys who actually don't want to do that, but they do still want to contribute, you know, to the box. So it's like, you know what? Thankfully, I'm still a little bit busy. I don't necessarily have time for commissions or don't particularly care about getting something back. But, you know, I'll sell you 50 books and, you know, 100 prints, for example. And so, and that works for us too. Not everybody has to be a featured artist. And fortunately, you know, we can work with that as well.
Cool. That's cool. So, all right, number 9. This is more of a personal question.
Mm-hmm.
What is your most prized autograph piece in your collection?
Ooh, man. All right. I'm going to give you a 2-part answer to that.
That's cool. That works for me.
Most prized, we'll do 2 things. We'll talk about most valuable to me, and then most valuable as far as money, right? So signed item, it's going to end up being sports. I actually own a limited edition. I think it's out of 500. Triple signed, super long collage piece, almost the same size as the beautiful Anthony Davis you've got behind you there. It's signed by Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan.
Oh, wow.
One, yeah, the cheapest one I've seen on eBay. It's an Upper Deck series. I think last I checked was about $10,000, something like that. And so I'm very fortunate to own it. You know, I own number 420 out of 500. And, you know, so financially, that's probably my highest priced item. As far as something that I personally consider, you know, it is actually a comic book piece, and it's hard to narrow it down to one. And depending on the time of the year that you ask me, the answer might change. But one of my favorite series right now is Something is Killing the Children.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely love that book. A little like I know the speculation market hit it pretty hard, and sometimes that drives me nuts because now I got to pay a little bit more for these incentive covers than I'd like to. But I was one of those that actually subscribed from issue 1 all the way down. So I do own every cover except for the second print of number 1. So if anyone has it out there, let me know. But, you know, I was able to subscribe and get every single cover. And one of the coolest things I own is actually a sketch cover by Werther Dell'Edera, who is the Italian artist, co-creator of the series. And it's actually a Christmas gift that he gave me, man.
Oh, wow.
It just arrived. It arrived on New Year's Eve. And because of how much I love that series and because of how cool Werther has been over the past year and a half, you know, we first crossed paths when Something That Is Killing the Children had just launched. And I remember telling him, dude, I got number 1 just because I thought it had a cool cover. And I love it. And for me, you know, when it comes to comics, I'm mostly into the art, right? I can buy any book because I don't necessarily need to follow the story. You know, if I like the artist or if I like the art style, I'm going to buy it. And with Something Is Killing the Children, it's the first book in a long time where I actually read every single issue that drops. I think the story's fantastic. I think the art style is fantastic. I think having, you know, had that personal interaction with Werther, really also gave me a very biased opinion. It's someone that I really like as a person, and as a result, I'm really supporting his work as well. I don't know if you can see it, wrong side, if you can see it behind me, but that's the original cover to number 2, the first printing of number 2. That's not a print, that's the original art. You know, this was something that he also, I'm not going to say he gave it to me because he did sell it to me, but this was before, you know, this thing blew up. I bought this, I think, Thanksgiving 2019 or something like that from him.
Really?
I won't say the price because people are going to think, you know, I stole it from him or something. But yeah, so I've got a signed, I've got the signed cover and I've got the original art there. You can't see it, but a little bit above it is the original art and cover to number 1. And I guess I got to show it off if that's.
Yeah, you do.
There it is up there. You know.
Wow.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, for me, that's probably the coolest piece I own, that sketch cover from him, because, you know, again, it was a gift. It has a lot of sentimental value. I mean, if we want to talk about dollar value, I think his commissions now start something like $300 or something. So even then, financially, it's pretty cool. But, you know, definitely an awesome way to end 2020. As I said, it arrived on New Year's Eve, and I Julia thought I was crazy because I was screaming like a little child.
I love it, man. No, I mean, for me, I own a lot of valuable comic books. I own a lot of valuable ball cards. One of my it's funny because I liked your answer because there's the sentimental value and then there is the monetary value. My favorite comic book of all time is Firestorm #1 because it's the book that got me into comic books when I was a kid. I used to sit in the grocery store all the time. My other is my uncle. Him and my dad, they used to work me to death, and they would work me for basketball cards. And like I would cut weeds, I would do whatever I could. My uncle owned a convenience store, and he would pay me with ball cards. And he used to laugh at me because, when I got a little older, he used to laugh and said, "Oh, I really got you on that," And except for one summer, they paid me with 10 boxes of 86 Fleer basketball. Jordan rookie.
Yeah.
You've got, who else is in there? Barkley, Neek. You've got all those rookie cards, and I would make fun of him later. I was like, yeah, I kind of came out on that deal. They worked me hard, man. Yeah. So I've actually,
back then, you definitely came up.
Yeah, I came up for sure. So, all right, question number 10, and it's kind of the new question number 10 for everybody, is are there any YouTube channels out there that me or my viewers should be watching, or maybe somebody that I need to hit up to interview?
All right. So, again, much like the whole I'm not a slab collector thing, this is a little bit taboo, especially given that, I'm very fortunate to be a guest on your channel. I actually don't have a YouTube account. So I'm not subscribed to anyone. And most of the YouTube videos that I've seen have been sent by some of our followers, whether it be something that like, hey, I reviewed your box, do you want to check it out? Or someone else saying like, hey, I found your box on so-and-so's YouTube channel, why don't you take a look? So I have a very small sample size, and it's all going to be very biased because most of it has been sent to me by about folks who have fortunately shown off our boxes. Alan May, and I don't remember the name of the YouTube channels. I'm so sorry, guys. But Alan May, just did one actually for our holiday premium box. And something that I thought was really cool is just his reactions, to what he was getting. And that's really where I'm got this big cheesy smile as I'm watching them, because that's really what I want to accomplish with the boxes. Yeah, getting some cash out of it is cool, but what's the point if everybody's gonna say, oh, this was all filler or whatever? We've all been there with a mystery box, and it's a crappy feeling. Alan May, I thought had a pretty cool, and I really like his background. He's got all his Funko Pops and his figures, and it looks like my other room. So I can relate to that. I think a channel that I was brought to early on and might not get the love that it deserves is another one. By J.O. Young. She's actually a writer herself, but collects memorabilia as well, and comic memorabilia. And she has a huge collection of trade paperbacks. Again, there's a market for everybody, right? I personally don't collect trade paperbacks, but she has an awesome collection that happens to be her background on her videos. I think it's called The Book of the Nerd. She reviews not just mystery boxes, but books that she's into, books that she picked up, I think on New Comic Book Day or whatnot. So, if y'all can show her some love as well, that'd be pretty cool. Wish I could contribute a little bit more, but,
No, those are great answers. I actually know Alan. Alan was on here. He actually came on 10 questions with me.
Right, yeah, you had him, I think, this week or this past week.
I think Bueller, I think Comics with Bueller was this past week, and the week before that was Alan. Yeah. And Alan's one of those, I saw the box, right? Because Alan actually messaged me and said, hey, did you get your IRF Authentics box? And I was like, no. And that's where the question, the story came from what I actually did and how I missed it. Was I was in a board meeting. I own a company, and I was running a board meeting for my company. And I set an alarm for your box so that I could come out and do what I needed to do. So I set the alarm, I come out, the thing pops up, and I completely blanked on what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then went back in and came back, and I have a message from you like, Jimmy, what are you doing? You've done this before. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh my goodness. And so this was this man's box. That's where that came from, was this guy's box.
It's funny because I actually, have heard some really awesome stories about folks trying to get our boxes, and I don't want to sound full of myself or anything. They're super humbling, and everybody has these cool stories. I mean, Alan had a crazy one where he was driving in his car and his kids were going crazy, and he's trying to get them to be quiet because he doesn't want to miss the code word or whatnot. I think he had to pull over on the side of the road. That's just nuts. I would have never thought we would put something out there that folks were truly as passionate about it, if not more passionate than we are, And I know not everybody's too thrilled with the process, having to get a code word and doing it, but there's a channel that I don't think is active anymore. Wink Inc. I'm sure everybody knows.
Yeah, Wink. Mm-hmm.
And he, at one point bought a box from us, I think at the start of last year, and all of a sudden the next day I had like an extra 100 and something followers. I'm like, well, what's going on? Like I don't use any of those funky apps that buy you followers or anything. And eventually it was brought to my attention that he had uploaded a video, and which was a super awesome video, by the way. And since then we've been getting these like crazy requests, and I told Julie, I was like, wow, like we really got to figure out a way to make this more accessible. And I got that whole code word thing from actually Todd Knock, who I mentioned is one of my favorite artists. And I'm a big commission autograph, original art collector. And every con, I have to get X amount of commissions. It's just something that I like to do. And he's very much in demand at these conventions. So what he started doing is he posts a code word on his website, and you have to email him with the code word, and he'll let you know if you got in or not. And he explained to me like, look, this eliminated the need for people to rush to my booth as soon as the doors opened. And then when conventions started doing VIPs get in an hour early or something, none of us common folk were able to get him anymore. And I thought, it might not be for everyone, but the reality is, some folks are going through a lot of trouble to try and get one of our boxes, and I think it'll weed out those who perhaps aren't as serious about making an effort. Unfortunately, because everything is signed, we're probably never going to be one of those companies that puts out 150 boxes a month.
Sure.
It's just we don't have the ability to do so. So these small batches, I think with the code word have made it interesting, to say the least.
No, it has. Well, it almost generates a little excitement. Like I completely blanked. Like I said, claim box 5. I think that was my post. And I was like, and I did it like 8, as soon as I think it went on sale at 8:00 Eastern Standard Time. As soon as it went on sale, I jumped out and I claimed 5, completely blanked on what I was supposed to do. So, but I got the next one. And that's one thing I will say about your process. For anybody that's watching that hasn't bought one of IRF's boxes before, is the process is very clean. Ruben will reach out to you and say, hey, you're next in line, be thinking about what box you want. Then he'll come back to you and say, okay, here you can have any box you want, any number except for these. You choose your box. Next thing you know, you get an invoice, you pay it, you're all set. And it's nice. And if you're one of his existing customers, then there's a pre-sale essentially for people who have bought the box before, and you get a chance to kind of get in early and get the box. So it's sweet, man. Like I said, you got a good thing going, dude. I dig your box. You're super cool to talk to. I'm so excited that you came on and sat down and chatted with me tonight. If you haven't checked out IRF, you need to. Tell everybody where they can find you as far as, social media and that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Again, thank you for the kind words. We're mostly active on Instagram at IRF Authentics, just as it's spelled, IRF Authentics. We're on Facebook because you have to have a Facebook for Instagram, but a big disclaimer, as soon as you go to the Facebook page, we're not active on it. It just something we need to do. So it says on there, just go check us out on Instagram. Unfortunately, we're not on Twitter. We're not on YouTube just yet. Might have to get with the times and do it at some point, because I had said I wasn't going to be on Instagram either, and here I am. So, but for right now, check us out on Instagram at IRF Authentics. 2021 schedule is on there. If things work out with this pandemic, we'll definitely drop some more boxes than what is on the original schedule there.
Cool. All right, guys, that is 10 questions for tonight. Ruben, thank you so much, man, for coming on. I'll make sure I post links to Ruben's Instagram page in the description of this video. Ruben's box goes on sale tomorrow, right? The normal sale goes on tomorrow.
Yeah.
By the time you guys see this video, it'll be sold out. I guarantee that. But you can go there and check out, I think it's probably 3 or 4 posts back where he released the current schedule for the drops this year. And you can go and check it out, and you'll be able to see one of his boxes get opened on this channel here probably in about 2 weeks, I would say, because after they sell out this week, I'll probably get the box sometime this week or, the beginning of the following, and you'll get to watch it open right here. And then I'll link I'll put a link to this interview on there as well, so people can come and check that out too. So, Ruben, thank you, brother. Everybody out there, thank you so much for watching and for the support. Go hit up IRF's Instagram channel or Instagram page and follow if you don't already. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, hit that subscription button and the notification bell so that you know when we put out cool content like talking to IRF Authentics. All right, guys, talk to you next time.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy.